Welcome back to Vivid Noise, and today's episode is focusing on a game that I hold very dear to my heart, and that is Sonic Rivals 2. As is tradition for this series, my secondary point that I want to talk about is this very strange occurrence, this thing that happens when a spin-off of a game series fits very neatly into what I believe to be the conventions of the main entries in that series. So in this case, I've never really considered Sonic Rivals 1 and 2 to be that separated from the main games, and I'll talk about exactly why I feel that way, especially when it comes to Sonic Rivals 2. You can almost think of this as the antithesis of my Need for Speed Hot Pursuit 2 video, where I talked about games that don't belong because they're just so much better made than the other ones. Well, here, no, this game is well made, if you ask me. Both Sonic Rivals 1 and 2 are surprisingly well made. Seriously, I'm gonna get into it later, but the level of production here for just a spin-off for the PSP that no one played because no one bought the PSP because the Nintendo DS exists, it's really impressive. And building off of that point, about no one playing this game, well, I feel like it'd be appropriate for me to actually sort of explain what this game is, how does it work, what makes it different. So basically, think of Sonic Rivals as taking Sonic R, putting it in 2D and just making it like really good, because I mean, here's the thing, we all love Sonic R as like this, the music and stuff. I do actually think it's a very interesting case of a game from that time, and I could do a whole video on it. I might do that, but it feels redundant because unlike this game, which very few people have covered, at least the way I'm about to cover it, everyone's talked about Sonic R. And yeah, with that said, Sonic Rivals is basically just it's a 2D platformer slash racing game, and especially the sequel, this one right here, Sonic Rivals 2, it has a much heavier emphasis on the traditional aspects of what a platformer is. The first one really was just more of a straightforward, like, this is literally Sonic R in 2D and with way better graphics, and, well, the music wasn't as good, to be honest, but I mean, you can't really beat the Sonic R soundtrack. And speaking of soundtracks, yeah, this game is well, it's not really up to the standard of what you'd expect from Sonic music. Race to Win and the third act song for the first stage, Blue Coast, I think it was called, that's an absolute banger, right? That's amazing. It's Jun Sonoa at his best. What I think Ted Poley doing the vocals, the We Can guy, from Sonic Heroes, fantastic song, right? But the rest, they have these very stock sounding loops and riffs. It's a little heavier than what you'd expect. There's like these metal parts and stuff, which are really cool, but it's forgettable, but at the same time, all of it is ingrained into my mind, but that is mainly because it was one of the few games I had on my PSP. Yeah, I had no consoles growing up, but I did have a PSP and also a 3DS, so it's kind of inevitable it'd just be stuck in my head. And as for the visual presentation, it's really solid, especially for a handheld system. The texture quality is, whatever. The models, I really love the way the models look. They don't look anything like the actual renders that they use, but they look really nice. They're lower poly count than what you expect for what you would expect for a console game, but they're very well stylized. I really love the way the characters animate, and again, keep in mind, this wasn't made by Sonic Team. This was made by, I believe, Team 7. And while their take on Sonic's music, apart from those few examples I mentioned, doesn't really carry the same spirit, the visuals definitely do. It's really, really colorful. I love the particles. I love the way the rings look. It's a very small thing, but I don't know. It's probably just a nostalgia, though. And I love how every level, you see those vault things, like the character is vaulting over them, and it says like X and circle underneath, which I'll talk about that later, but basically, okay, I'll talk about it now. Essentially, it's a mechanic where you can, you hit X or circle, and it sends you either going upward or going, just straight forward, and you can use that to take alternate pathways in the stages, because this freaking racing game is less linear than some of the mainline Sonic games. But yeah, another effect I really like about the visuals is that trail that appears behind the characters. Quite a few Sonic games do that, especially Unleashed, but yeah, I'm a huge sucker for just like long beams of color that follow a thing in a game. It's one of those weird things, just really appeals to me visually. And as for the gameplay, and this is going to be devastating, but the rolling physics are not accurate to the classics. I'm sorry, game's unplayable. No, just kidding. It plays just fine. The characters are a little bit slow on their own, but as you can see, you can still pick up quite a bit of speed. with how the levels are designed. It's just that on their own, the characters don't move too quickly, but that must have been for the sake of pacing or balancing or something like that. There's also these special abilities. In the original Sonic Rivals, I believe they were pickups, but here you get them by collecting rings, and every character has, like, you know, Sonic has the boost, Tails can fly, Silver over here has, like, psychokinesis, telekinesis, whatever it is, that thing that makes it so basically your controls get all messed up. So, like, up will move you forward, jump will make you duck, whatever it might be. It's really annoying, but he only did it once in this race, so I got lucky there. And I know it seems a little strange to, like, limit those kind of abilities to a bar, but think about it. You know how fucking OP Silver would be if you could use it all the time, or how OP Tails would be if you could just fly whenever, if how OP Sonic would be if the boost worked the same way as it does in the boost games. It's just to make the game playable in this way. I feel like it was a decent compromise. Speaking of extra abilities, I like how the game handles the pickups. In a way, it doubles the amount of pickups it already has. So there are these elemental abilities, right? Like an ice cube, electricity, whatever it might be. But I love how, depending on your position in the race, it either has it act as a projectile or a shield of some kind, or an obstacle that falls, you know, that you leave behind yourself for the opponent to run into. So you really have a lot more power-ups than what the game seems to have, right? It's kind of like when a first-person shooter will have an alt fire to a weapon, so it really doubles the weapon count. It's a similar thing here, and it really adds a lot of, I wouldn't say strategy to the game or anything, you just sort of use them as you get them, but it's just cool that they thought about it. They decided to, you know, okay, this power-up isn't going to be useful to you as a projectile when you're in the lead, so let's give you a shield instead. Let's give you a thing you can drop behind to obstruct your opponent. It's clever. When it comes to the main action stages, the only thing I really have a problem with is the occasional button mashing moments. You know, you've probably seen them during this gameplay. There's all these sections where it's just mash circle to do this thing. There's also like mash X and circle or mash square. I don't really get why games used to do that and sometimes still do. It's just kind of, it's a freebie, if that makes sense, from a design standpoint. It's just like, okay, we need to come up with like some really quick time wasting thing in a stage. Let's do that. But I feel like that wouldn't be giving the game enough credit, because it does have a lot of good gimmicks, like gimmicks that genuinely improve the level and make it more unique and aren't just button mashing. Like in this level, you've got the Sandopolis ghosts. I was not expecting that. Like, it's got the Sandopolis ghost gimmick. It's also got these switches, and for the second act, there's these things you have to jump on, and these start to cycle through a bunch of icons, and then you have to match the icon with the one that's underneath. It's a very simple little puzzle, but it, you know, just adds something that makes every level feel distinct from a gameplay standpoint. They don't just look and sound different, they play a little differently too, and that's great. Another potential point of critique is the bosses and how they're handled, because yeah, it doesn't make sense that you have to race the other opponent to beat the boss. You know, isn't the whole point to stop Eggman, or Eggman can't say a second name without getting canceled, but let's be real, it's a fucking video game, right? It doesn't matter. You could just say it's an ego contest, right? I mean, we all know that a lot of these characters have a bit of an ego, so yeah, screw it. It's like, it's not a matter of who saves the day, it's who saves the day first. That's our head canon, okay? And speaking of the bosses, they're actually really creative. I mean, almost Sonic CD tier. It's not just about hitting the boss, it's figuring out how to hit him. The first one's very simple. You just wait until he swings to reveal his weak spot. For the second boss, that one gave me a lot of shit when I was a kid, and he can still be pretty annoying. You have to drop like these bat bomb things onto him as he goes down, and he'll like fake you out. He'll sort of like extend himself a little bit through the tunnel and then pull right back out, and it's just like, god damn it, stop doing that, right? Or the casino boss, I love that one too, because typically what you're supposed to do is you just got to activate these blocks to get you a bingo, so it makes him go down, like it sends the boss down to the ground and you can hit him. But if they stack up tall enough, you can completely avoid that mechanic and instead just jump on the blocks and hit them that way. So you've got two different methods of attacking the boss. And so why do I think that this game feels more like the official Sonic? Oh, this is an official Sonic game, but it feels more mainline. Well, it's not just because of the way the bosses are handled, and it's really well done, but also because of, well, as you can see right here, this is a knockout event, right? Where you gotta like melee your opponent. That's not necessarily why it feels mainline, but it's just because of the fact that there's so many different game modes here. Earlier you saw me, in fact, the very first thing you saw me do was a ring collection event. I wasn't even racing anyone, I was just getting rings, right? It's a very typical thing to do in a Sonic game. I mean, it's not like a distinct game mode in any of the mainline games, but it's not just a race, right? There's so many things you do in this game other than just racing. There was also the ring collection competition, right? Where you gotta get as many rings as possible before your opponent does. And as you just saw earlier, there's also these events where you're not racing any of the other characters, you're racing a freaking ghost of yourself, right? All these different contextualizations for what you do make this seem like a lot more than just like a regular racing spin-off. It takes itself weirdly seriously, not tonally. The game is very lighthearted, and the voice acting is, yeah, there's full voice acting. That's another thing the Sonic Rivals 2 did over the original. Instead of just little sound bites, there's full voice acting for the cutscenes. That helps bring it closer to feeling like a mainline game. And we got Jason Griffith, and that always makes me happy. And not to mention all of the side content. This game, just like the original, has this card collection system where doing different things in the game unlocks these cards, which you can just, just PNGs, whatever, you can just look at them. But again, it adds this extra layer of content and things to do in the game. There's also this mode where you can collect Chao. I spent hours on that shit as a kid, and I refused to look them up. I could have, this game came out in like 2007, so the internet was very much a thing, even in the shithole that I live in, but I didn't look them up. I tried to get them myself. I don't think I got all of them, but I got very close. It's in the free play mode, right, where you can just sort of run around the levels. That too, you can just run around the levels as if they were just traditional Sonic stages. It's very common for racing games to let you do that, but the fact that this game does it too just adds that extra layer of not feeling separated. Like, this very much is a spin-off, but it's so not spin-off-y. This isn't Sonic Riders, this isn't Sonic All-Stars, this isn't Sonic the Fighters or whatever. It's Sonic Rivals 2. And yet, it doesn't feel like some disconnected thing. I mean, yes, obviously it has some differences. For example, every character can homing attack. You don't usually do that in the main games. It's just Sonic and Shadow and Amy and Espio as well. Depends on the game, but you get the idea. I guess with that, I'm implying that this game really is a testament to how much more crucial a game's gameplay is to the identity of a series than the way it's presented. Like, yes, this game looks and kinda sounds like Sonic as well. That helps a lot, but it definitely plays like Sonic, much more so than the rest of his spin-offs, which look and sound like Sonic, but don't really play like it. And it's interesting how there's a lot of different franchises that fall into different categories when it comes to what's happening right now with this game. Like, for example, Serious Sam is a bunch of spin-offs where they look and sound like it for the most part. In fact, I'm pretty sure the same guy who does the music for Serious Sam, like the actual games, has done the music for quite a few of the spin-offs as well, but they don't play like it, and they don't have that same identity. You don't feel like you're actually playing a Serious Sam game. Or when you play Mario Kart, it's like, okay, this isn't Mario, it's Mario Kart, it's its own thing. Or when you play Mario Tennis or whatever, or Mario Party, it's very different, and that's because the gameplay is different, so naturally it's gonna feel like it's a separate entity, even though it looks and sounds like it. Whereas here, it plays very much like a Sonic game, although it does have differences. As you might expect, the opposite can also be true for quite a few games, where they are a part of the mainline series, they look and sound like it, but the gameplay, even if it has elements of what the games used to be like, there might be something that just dominates so much that it completely transforms the identity of the game. For example, Sonic Unleashed, I have a very hard time internalizing the fact that Unleashed is a mainline Sonic game. When I think Sonic Unleashed, the first thing that comes to mind isn't the insane, just mind-melting daytime levels. I'm thinking about the nighttime levels, because they just take up such a large portion of the game. I've played both the Wii and the 360 version of the game, and yeah, it's just the Werehog takes up so much more time that is just what I take away from the experience. When I think of the daytime levels, the word Sonic Unleashed does not come to mind. That title is just separated from the identity of what that game is. I think of just Generations, but with slightly better visuals maybe. Of course, that's not implying that whenever a game changes its direction a little bit, it completely loses its identity. That can happen. It's a slippery slope. But as long as it feels like a natural progression of what came before, it makes sense. It's just that when Unleashed, it's completely unrelated. I mean, the whole God of War thing, not that it wasn't done well, it was just so different. It'd be like you were playing Half-Life, and all of a sudden it becomes Need for Speed. Funnily enough, there's actually a mod that lets you do that, but what do you expect? It's Gold Source. I think I've done done a pretty good job getting my point across as to why I feel like Sonic Rivals 2 feels more mainline than it really has any right to as a simple portable spin-off. It's just too high effort with the bosses, with the detailed voice acting. It's a really well-made game. And unlike another well-made spin-off, Sonic Riders, it retains the gameplay identity of the franchise for the most part. And once again, thank you so much for sticking around for another episode of Vivid Noise, and I'll catch you at the next one.